Let's have just a moment of quiet together here. You can see the light. You are not a body, you are free. You are still as God created you. Be free. I want to make one final observation on this tape. We're aware that you're listening to these tapes in your own particular environs and experiences, whether in a group or individually, and it's very important that you hear this. Don't belittle your own enlightenment process. Okay, our whole teaching is that this is a metamorphosis occurring in you individually. It has nothing to do with the consciousnesses around you, or in fact even the expression of the associate ideas of what's happening. So if you feel this intense pressure now to contact us, you do that, and there's a number on this tape, or you know where this came from. And if you have this necessity now to seek and find, that's what we're here for. We serve that purpose and none other. So don't believe that because we're saying this that we're some sort of an establishment, because we're not. We are teaching to your whole mind within your dream framework individually. But we are teaching at the light source so that you can see the truth of you. We are not an establishment, okay? We are making a statement of a whole single truth that is you. So welcome home. We hope we will see you physically and that you can come in this declaration of your newfound mind. Huh? Of course. Give it away. Be possessed. I mean, you are free. Some of you are feeling this directly now. It's very lovely. See? The light. How very beautiful. Stay with us now. We're with you forever and ever. Perhaps we will ramble for just a minute about, I don't know what's going to come out, so if you guys would contribute, but we were sitting here at God's Country Place. We're at the kitchen table once again, and we're talking about the obvious association of so-called normal or perceptual mind with the disease of spiritualness, and how finally the idea of whole mind, or the idea of the relinquishment, really is what it is, of associate ideas in regard to personalities, are considered to be mental diseases, okay, by perceptual consciousness. It's very evident to you in the new way in which you're thinking and doing that you are different than the constituted reality of Earth, and perhaps you always have been. Many of you who are listening to this tape now have always been different, yet you have been forced to acclimate yourself to the notations of perceptual reality in regard to the things that you did, the goals that you set, the modality of your thinking and cultural relationships. All of these things have environmentally forced on you, where from a hereditary or genetic or karma standpoint, you always felt different. We have come to tell you that different is good. We have come finally to tell you that total different is total good, because the real condition, as close as you could get to it in perception, of heaven, of wholeness, of goodness, has absolutely nothing to do with the constructs of the mind of the earth. And that's a statement of fact. It begins perhaps with early in pre-adolescence. The consciousness observes that to some degree people do not say what they mean. And there are a lot of young clairvoyants who have suffered the apparent stigma of listening to an adult while the adult's mind was saying something else. Have you ever heard of that? Did you know that? And that's a fairly common thing, and many of us early on experienced that. So we were taught hypocrisy, and it was at a higher level even than do what I say, not what I do. It was more, but Dad, you're thinking differently. The whole world thinks differently than it acts, or the whole world finally is basing its reality on the consciousness that it's denying, and this will come later on to you. And this causes great frustration. You've become what? A search for perfection. Okay, all indications of, that will occur in adolescent schizophrenia, for example, are statements of a need to be a whole consciousness. When puberty is reached, when the energy, passions mature to creative necessity, there will be statements of a need to be whole. And this manifests itself obviously in a need to create or recreate or to have issue. But at a higher level, it's a statement of a need for the consciousness to identify itself, to know who it is, to find some reality. This has to be accompanied by perceptual split mind, because this is a split mind place. And unless the consciousness can adjust to the idea of the tragedy of the association of pain and death with love and security, he'll kill himself, perhaps, or he'll begin to sedate himself, which is more common. Or finally, he'll find a compromise that fits into a form that, while it is not true and he knows it, it has to be acceptable to him in the relationship with the limited goals that have been set for him. Many of you have gone through these periods in your life, then adjusted to them, and gone on perhaps to school, and gone on and found avocations and occupations that gave you at least some sense of satisfaction, only to discover that in terms of what you really were, in the reality of the universe, in your need to know, they literally didn't fit the bill. Now you're ready. Now you're really looking, aren't you? Yet everywhere you look, all you can see is a temporary satisfaction derived by a conflictual consciousness in association with the things around him. Wow. Now we're into the teaching. Okay. There is no answer here. Okay. The conflictual mind cannot find an answer because the derivative of the solution is the cause of the problem. And quite literally, he is his own problem. You've discovered that now, and this is what we teach. That the problem that apparently exists in your associations are nothing but mind possession. Jesus, in the Course in Miracles, uses this term quite often. He says, in the old biblical expressions, is that the consciousness is possessed. And we mean that literally. The consciousness has ideas in association with his limited framework of time, doesn't he? He's actually possessed by things. Jesus calls them perceptions or idols. You find in your text, do you think you know what an idol is? And take a look at what idols really are. Idols are associate ideas about yourself in relationship to the objects that are around you. Idols are the need to hold on and to identify yourself in this persona, in this limited association that you find yourself in. You'll always judge them finally falsely because all judgment is false. And this is why you can't find the Christ. I'll put this on once more. When Jesus says, let's face it, if you could find the Christ, you'd kill him, he means quite literally that perceptual mind defends itself from reality and from wholeness. So the process of coming to know what we teach, that is the mechanism of coming to know, has to be relinquishment. This is the basis of the Course in Miracles, that your mind, your perceptual mind, is the obstacle to the reality that's all about you. And only through the relinquishment, of your possessions can you come to know that. Now, those of you who have decided to take this tack on the King's Highway are beginning to have the feeling that you want to divest yourself of things. This is a nice indication. You wake up one morning, you've gone through a change of mind, and you literally start to give your things away. You don't want to be connected with security. Okay? You seek out insecurity in order to allow the miracle to occur. This is the teachings of the workbook of the Course. The whole idea of ordering your mind or looking to the future or gathering evidence of survival in time are the exact notations that are causing your death and aging, aren't they? But what we're dealing with for the moment is the consciousness literally undergoes this, and society, which is structured on longevity and death and subsequent death, cannot understand the foolish tactics of a spiritual mind that is trying to get rid of itself. And it often is judged and appears to be within the framework of the balance of perceptual mind to be insanity. Is this the awakening of the energy forces? Is this the evidences of paranoia and schizophrenia that may come about? Sure. The fundamental teachings that we present to you is that you are undergoing a transformative change in your body, mind, and all of your systems in regard to your relationship, including your glandular associations, your circulatory functions, what you are in truth, okay? With that admission, all of the apparent aberrations that will occur in this process will be looked on as beneficent, because they become a continuing means to identify the change that is going on in you. Isn't this nice? Okay, so you begin to seek out, if you've been doing the Course in Miracles or listening to this tape, you begin to seek out consciousnesses who are experiencing the phenomena of the enlightenment, without giving credit to it within the limited framework. Many of them perhaps would walk on water, or they'd levitate, or they'd see bright lights, or they'd feed the multitude, and perhaps even raise the dead. Huh? They go through all of these things, and they're in a perceptual state where they have to finally acknowledge, and this is a difficult step, but you better make it, okay, that you're different. You finally cannot come to hear this without the whole statement that your whole mind will be different, at least for a moment, with the perceptual establishment that appears to be outside of you. You can't get it without going through it. And that's okay. If we're going to take the sentences, let's take them whole. From the Course, you are the only living Son of God. That's a statement of whole-mindedness, that God created you singularly and wholly. Is that true of the things that you see around you? Is that true of what appears to be happening on earth? Does the body really construct itself in divine associations? Of course not. Therefore, the necessity for you to appear to be different, okay, is going to be very obvious to you. Why? Because you are different, okay? It may start out with you marching to a little different drum. Then the melody begins to play for you, and you begin to hear other things. And then you reach a point where we say, can you hear this? Where the mind has expanded sufficiently, where it has relinquished its previous karma associate ideas to the point where it puts them together in a new framework, and now it begins to hear this. These are this is the brotherhood. This is what we'll be gathering together loosely, not in a doctrinal organization around the world, and it's occurring now. That framework of thought is literally transcendent and is in a constant state of occurring. How lovely then to realize that the necessity that you're feeling now to divest yourself of your goods, of your worldly possessions, is all a part of this determination being exercised by you in your whole mind, in this space-time framework, to return to reality, to wake up. You've been asleep, haven't you? And now you're going to wake up. So the need to give yourself away is very valuable. In fact, the fundamental teaching has to be that the closest that you can get to creating in perceptual consciousness is to give. And when you give yourself completely, okay, you will no longer be held in the bondage of the memory patterns that constitute your apparent genetic reality. Holy mackerel, come on home, guys. Well, we're meandering here a little bit. We'll come back. We're at God's Country Place. We hope you'll hear this, and we hope you'll contact us. We'll be back. We're still meandering here, and we're still talking. Strangely enough, the idea of necessity, the idea of lack, the idea of scarcity is exactly why you don't give things away. Yet until you give them away, you can't know that you don't need them. You are nothing but a series of sequential possessions of an unreal consequence, because the beginning has no reality. But the teaching has to be that you give or forgive in order to know that. You cannot know that there is nothing outside of your mind. And then the sentence, and listen to how dramatically different this will sound to you. You can only forgive yourself. You can only give to yourself. Okay? God creates. You are a creator in correspondence with the certainty of that reality. Obviously, you can't know it unless you give it away. But the defense mechanisms, obviously defensiveness is fear, that you have in the admonition that you must give in order to know that you're real are very strong. This is nothing but the new covenant of Christianity. This is nothing but the notation of mercy and love and giving in order to become whole, in order to communicate, in order to see that you are a single consciousness. Okay. Okay. Protect everything you value by giving it away. Okay. The universe is only thought. Okay. You begin with the notation that everything is ideas and that the ideas are yours, and this includes God, then you have this marvelous idea of perfection. And then you see that no matter where you look, there isn't any, because you're possessed by needs. Then you give the needs away and come to be rather than have. And then you see that being and having are the same thing. Okay? Then your whole mind suddenly explodes on you when you're in the glory of the recognition of love, without the necessity to defend yourself in any regard at all. You have been found not guilty of ordering your thoughts. You have made the admission of a single source. Wow, that's astonishing. To discover that strength is in absolute dependency on the single truth, rather than the establishment of some sort of kingdom outside of reality. How foolish to do that and die in the attempt. Okay. So, don't be possessed. Does possession include opinion? Hey, possession is opinion. Thought forms are opinions about your relationships. Okay. Don't judge, and you'll spring into heaven. We'll be back soon. All right, we're back for just a moment. Let's take a look at the inevitable outcome of this kind of thinking, of the idea that you must give everything away in order to discover that you are. All establishments, that is, all perceptual associations on the earth, or the earth itself, are statements of the denial of whole-mindedness. Jesus' Christian admonitions that your kingdom is not of this world, okay? That you have to literally give up your established mind in order to come to the truth are all very much a part of this. But look at the intensity with which the consciousness will defend his mind establishments. Now, perhaps we'll put this on just for a little bit, because many of you who are doing the Course in Miracles are looking at the chapters that deal with special relationships, and go a step further and begin to speak of holy relationships. Okay. What we've been talking about in regard to sequential time or perceptual mind is what special relationships are. All limited mind functions are nothing but special relationships. You might want to look at the certainty that they only communicate with themselves, since they are projections of a limited mind. Obviously, you don't believe this. All of the establishments that you have on earth are objective establishments, making allowance for thought forms in their own constructs in association with themselves. You actually give them an identity and pretend that they didn't emanate from your own mind, don't you? That constitutes a special relationship. Actually, if you walk into a room and identify somebody by a name, you have given him a special association in the drama of your mind, haven't you? Now, you attempt then to communicate him by presenting to him your ideas in associations with his. They have no reality at all. Not only do you only present him with things that you may particularly want him to hear, but you hold within you and defend other notations that you feel will offend him, perhaps, or cause him to judge you falsely. There's a lovely sentence in the Course where Jesus says you end up with what is considered to be a so-called perfect relationship on earth, a perceptual relationship that the consciousnesses have literally contributed nothing to. It becomes nothing but form, and it appears to be very stable, and it has absolutely no reality at all. Now, in the process of giving yourself, there's another sentence in the Course you might as well hear. While we are all equal and certainly emanate from God, we are not equal in time. And some of you are beginning to experience as you go through this metamorphosis that the conditions around you do not keep up with the variances of the occurrences in your mind. And this can be very painful, because it's a restructuring going on at a different condition of consciousness or level of consciousness. Okay, here's the positive manner in which the miracle will occur. Okay. The only possibility of a failure in any sort of relationship that you have on earth will be the failure of your own mind in your contribution to the relationship. The only thing that could ever be missing in a relationship is what you don't bring to it. And that's very difficult for you, because you have been consoled on opinions and judgments in regard to associate reality for a very long time. If you give everything that you are and have to every relationship that you have, that's not a relationship, that's love. That's creating, that's extending from you. Okay? And you will not long remain in any form of establishment of your mind on earth. That's the truth of it. Again and again, you have brought with you perceptual thought forms, either in this framework of time, either to attack you or with which you are determined to associate and seek surcease of sorrow in the conflict of your own mind. This is very lovingly expressed in several pages in the Course in Miracles. Inevitably, they lead to death because they are defense mechanisms. It's important for you to remember that you are only memory. All perceptual mind is only memory. This was over a long time ago, dear brothers. You are simply in a framework of sequential memory. It's impossible for you to meet a stranger, since you are constructing the consciousnesses in your own mind. Yet since you have a drama of conflict, of hate and terror and fear with a lot of the array associations in your energy patterns, you establish very quickly in your new karma memories, as you incarnate, as you come into a recognition of yourself, your loves and hates, and base your reality on it. How absurd. You see now the necessity for forgiveness and the practice of forgiveness. I'm very much aware that you seem to be constituted in what is primordial hatred for particular types of cultures or associations. I'm aware of that, for goodness sake. But remember this, as long as you defend yourself, you become a part of the pattern of hate-love, of fear and death. So the practice has to be one of relinquishment then, or forgiving of your opinions in regard to it. Okay. Can that be done by asserting the power of your mind, or by the relinquishment of the power, by going to the true humility? Well, it'll work both ways. But remember this, the conflict is only in your own mind. And if you'll start with that premise, you won't need to define a holy relationship, because you'll discover through the absolute giving away of yourself, of your possessions in what formerly held you in bondage, that you have become whole and free. Free in mind, free to be, not free to do. Free to live, not free to die. And these will be the natural occurrence as you come more and more into this new framework of reality through this transformation that's going on in you now. So be of good cheer. You're not going to fail. I might tell you this. All judgments of yourself in regard to the progress that you're making in this are false. It's impossible that you don't get it. It's impossible that you didn't get it. You are only love. And as you come to know that, you'll become, as we were saying in the other tape, a happy learner. It'll make you feel real good to make a commitment to this teacher of God. And the higher the range of your commitment, the more you commit, the happier you'll be. Did you know that? There's some old biblical admonitions of Jesus. If your eye offends you, pluck it out. Okay? Quit looking at the splinter in your brother's eye and get to your own beam. For goodness sake, forgive and love. Huh? Am I back to the fundamental teachings? Give it up. Be number two. We know who you are. All of these assertions of your necessity to identify yourself in this so-called progress towards truth are absolutely meaningless to us. Okay? We're going to give you everything you need in this choice until you see that choice is absolutely unnecessary, and as a matter of fact, a choice between living and dying is what has held you in the bondage of time, and you'll come into eternity, and you'll see that you never left home. And that's what we're teaching. Come join us now in this new metamorphosis. It's impossible that you did not do this, and if you'd care to hear this, it's impossible that you did not do this now. Okay, any time is now to me, to my mind. If I don't get you now, I'll get you later, and my later will be now to me. And what it'll be to you, I don't know, but we're here to tell you that this place isn't real. The whole teaching of the Course now. Here it is, sitting right in front of you. You might want to spend a day looking up the definitions that Master Jesus gives for the earth, including dismal alcove and rotting prison, and many, many other ones where he directs that you'll laugh at the idea of death, and you'll laugh at the idea of sickness and pain. You'll come free and be whole with us. How lovely then to welcome you to the kingdom of heaven. We discover that we've always been together in this certainty of the love of our Creator. Be free then with this. In your relinquishment is your strength. In your apparent weakness, in your non-defensiveness is literally your salvation, and in no other way. Search within your heart. Okay. Don't be afraid to look at it now, teacher, when you're alone with yourself. And you have this fear veil that you don't really want to look at, and you begin to feel the threat of reality. Just cast your spirit, release yourself, come up to this new vista of reality, and be free. We'll see you soon. We'll be back.